Yeah, I did have to deliver a sex toy with an engraving on it saying your husband wasn't very good in bed to a lady yeah.
Elaborate.
So come on down to the man cave where the good times roll.
Guest Bill Edgar, the Coffin confessor, private investigator, the man with an unbelievable story that is coming to, I shouldn't say Netflix, but coming to a mini-series on your screen on some platform very, very soon. Billy Edgar, welcome back to the Man Cave.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
And the Vice Captain, Adam McDonald from Evans Hastings, is also with us. Just before we jump into Bill and his thoughts on some of the topics I want to discuss today, we have the millennial with us, but she's not showing her face today. She's there in the background.
I'm sick.
She's not well. You on the mend? Are you better today than yesterday?
Yeah, I think so. But truth be told, I am in bed.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. Well, we hope you get better very, very soon. Take 4 Nature B instead of 2. Vice Captain, before we, as I say, jump into Bill, Evans Hastings, your big car auction is happening tonight. So it'll be over by the time this is released. We did talk about that in great detail last time, and I can't wait to hear the results, and we'll probably do that next week. But you had a very, very interesting sale happen this week. And, Bill, get this. Evans Hastings, they auction and buy and sell anything. Tell us about the caravan park.
We were contacted by a local caravan park here that had, I think there was maybe 20 or so demountable buildings that can sleep. They're like a little dormitory. So went up online. They closed last night, and the sale netted a shade over $1.4 million. Like, for an auction room, I don't think I've ever worked in an auction room that's put a sale together that big. It was Benny. You all met Benny last week, our courageous CEO. Him and his team put it together, and it just went through the roof. And the way they sold it, absolutely perfect. Instead of selling the building and then another lot, the couches, the washing machines, whatever, they sold it as one lot. So we had caravan parks from all over the country buying these demountables for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. Like, it was an absolute screamer. Benny and his team really need to take a bow. It was, but like you said, Lukey, there's nothing we can't sell down here. That's what we do.
Well, it's good to hear that Evans Hastings is doing its part to solve the housing shortage.
There you go.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
There you go. Like these dormitories, you can literally get a wide load truck, pick it up, put it on, and take it wherever you want.
Yeah.
And, we had buyers in Victoria, we had buyers in South Australia, like buyers from all over the countryside, were getting involved in this sale. So it just goes to show that between Evans Hastings and Orbids, there's absolutely nothing we can't flog.
That's a great incentive, and that's great for the housing shortage and that. But I got to say, I'm pissed off with councils that come along and they tell you have to move them. I've had 3 of them in the last 10 years that I've purchased, just like yours, and for people to come and stay in, not even rent, just to stay in for housing shortage to help them out. And the council got word of it, obviously from a neighbour or some idiot, and then all of a sudden, council comes and says, no permit. We're not allowing permits. You can't have them on your property. You've got to get rid of them. So I turned them into garages.
Oh, it's interesting. It's
can live
interesting, isn't it? Last time I was in Sydney, I was driving through the inner west, and the amount of empty houses and shop fronts in that area is unbelievable. And they're just empty. And I don't know why people just don't open up and say, well, we've got nowhere to stay. You can come and stay here.
Yeah. And do you know the highest vacancy rate in Sydney? We're talking about great houses, terrace houses with no one in them, is at Milson's Point. And
yeah, right.
I know. It is unbelievable. And I still to this day don't understand why. But council and red tape, I mean, if we do have a housing shortage, don't you reckon that councils should now say, okay, well, you can put a granny flat. You've got the room. Here's the minimum size of room. You can put a granny flat there and either put a tenant in there or mum and dad or whatever. And wouldn't that go a long way to helping people out?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
Council's all about red tape. They love that. They love that shit.
It's all about the money.
It's all about the money. But if we're serious about trying to do something about the housing shortage until we can build more affordable houses, and I'm not letting developers build, 30, 40, 50 high-rise apartments that will cost $2.5 million each. We're talking about affordability, aren't we? But no one wants affordable housing in their neighbourhood because, it'll attract the wrong sort of people.
Well, you know what?
That's what it comes down to.
I was the wrong sort of people in many people's eyes when I was younger too, in my 20s and 30s. So, it's just one of those things. You get over it, you move on. Don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah. Hey, listen, there's a couple of things I wanted to ask your opinion on because I'm perplexed at what's happening at the moment. Guys, do you remember just last week he had the big debate as to whether or not to let the so-called ISIS brides back into Australia? Vice Captain, you and I have talked about this, and we're talking about women who went with men back to Syria to support ISIS. Now they want to come back home, and there's pushback from both the government and the opposition to allow them back into Australia because they could have been radicalised, and it includes children as well. Well, can you just explain to me what's going on with the Iranian women soccer players? Now, Iran is a dictator, has been ruled for over 30 years by a ruthless dictator who's now gone, but another ruthless dictator, it looks as though, is taking his place. And the Iranian women's soccer team want refuge in Australia. And straight away we've said yes. Now, 5 players were given diplomatic visas, humanitarian visas. As at the recording of today's podcast, 2 more players have said, yes, please, we'll have that as well, and 2 officials. The government has, with open arms, said, yes, we will take these Iranian soccer players because they face persecution back home. What's the difference? And someone just explained to me why we say absolutely no to the ISIS brides, but we welcome the Iranian soccer players and so far 2 officials to stay here in Australia and stay here under humanitarian visas. Now, I was listening to the radio this morning and the friend or a billet of one of these players said that she is one of the people seeking asylum and has been given one of these visas, but has been told her family has been arrested in Iran and faces death. So there's a lot of pressure on these women to go back, and they will probably be arrested and put to death as well. What do you make of this? Who wants to go first? Because I'm having trouble getting my head around it.
It's pure and simple is because we're an absolutely sports mad country. We care about sports more than anything else. That's all we want to do is sport. And if these women weren't playing sports, they'll be told no. But because they're sports people and they're good at playing a game, that's why we've said yes. It's pure and simple. There'll be no screening. There'll be no difference between them and the brides. But because they can kick a ball straight, that's why we've done it. It's ridiculous.
The thing is, the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister eventually said, yes, we will offer these visas to these women after having pressure put on them by none other than Donald Trump. There was a late-night phone call between Anthony Albanese and the Trumpster. 2 phone calls, as a matter of fact. Trump then tweets, God bless Australia. They're allowing these women to stay. But Trump has a very, very firm policy of saying no to anyone who has entered the country illegally. Now, these women came here on visas that allowed them to play soccer. I think it was against Korea here in Australia. But he's now putting pressure on our government to allow them to stay, but has a very firm policy of no way in America. What do you make of this, Billy?
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate here and take politics out of it and think of the women themselves and think this is the choice they got. They stay, their family gets killed, they go home, they get killed. It's going to be a very hard decision for them, obviously. Okay, difference between these people and the ISIS brides, these people aren't doing war. They're not electing to support the war. They're not electing to support their partners in a war. So, it's just, there is a difference there. However, I gotta say that I agree with you. Sport. It is for me, sport is gambling, and that's all it ever is nowadays. So I don't even tolerate that side of it. However, I feel that this may set a precedent for the Olympic Games. okay? Because it's going to happen. It will happen. We've had it in the past.
Or any international sporting event, whether it be the World Cup, the Olympic Games, anything.
It's going to happen. Yeah, and you won't stop it. It will happen.
Kelsey, do you want to comment on this, Kelsey, or are you staying put?
I think all of you are right. More, I guess, digestible because they're sports stars. But I also think, like Bill said, like at the end of the day, these are still women that need help. I think it's more digestible to the Australian public that they're sports stars. But I think this has got nothing to do with sports. I think it's got to do with Australia doing something that Trump wants so Australia can get into Trump's good graces, or Albo can get into Trump's good graces. I don't think this has got anything to do with, you know, doing things for the greater good. I think this has got to do with a political game of chess. But either way, I'm happy that the women are safe. Just
because they play sports doesn't mean they're not supporting the war effort over there, you know? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Is there screening? Is there background checks, or they're just they can play a game? Let's get them in.
We can't have one set of rules for one group of people and not for the other. You know,
but we do.
Yeah, but the whole world's divided. I mean, there's, you know, you can see that in every society and every form of life, is that you have people that get off from crimes because there's somebody or something, you know, and that's just part of life. That's what it is. But as far as what you just said, Kelsey, as far as, you know, Trump says something and we jump, I think Australia has to understand how much we are influenced by US more than the UK. I mean, you only got to look at Australia's spy network called Pine Gap. It's owned by America. It's one of the largest in the world. We are the central hub for America to be able to go to certain places and do certain things. And hardly any of Australians know about this place, you know, so they say something, we jump. It's always been that way. It's just more in your face now because of the internet.
Yeah, that's very true.
So if the ISIS brides were good at sport, would there be any question?
I'd say so, because they're still supporting their partners over in another country, where I'm still saying that these women that are playing sport, you know, getting away from it, but it'd be a terrifying, absolutely. Can you imagine sitting there at the moment, take all the shit aside, you're sitting there at the moment by yourself and you're thinking, Mum and Dad are going to get arrested or killed if I go home. Yeah. I get killed. What do I do? You know, it'd be devastating. It'd be so heartbreaking for them.
This is what happens in North Korea, which is such another evil place. And by the way, it's funny how Trump is hell-bent on Iran because it has, or it may have, nuclear weapons. So does Russia. And look what Russia's done in Ukraine. And North Korea, run by an absolute lunatic, and North Korea has nuclear capacity.
Yeah, but it's all about the money. You got to follow the money. It's all about the money. I mean, there's certain objectives and things, and you know, you can say, oh, they've got minerals, oil, all this stuff. And that all comes down to money. And, you know, North Korea and other places like that, and Russia, they have certain things and value to the Americans a lot more than what, you know, Iran does. Because at the end of the day, Iran's wiped out. The neighbouring countries that are supporting the US will be the ones that rebuild that country, despite what Trump says. It will happen.
Vice Captain, you're in Canberra. Now, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and a lot of regional Australia, they're claiming that they're running out of petrol and diesel, especially in regional Australia, where it takes a fair bit of organisation to get there. Now, the government is saying no need to panic buy. The fuel that we are expecting, the deliveries we're expecting are all on course. They've arrived on time. The majority of our fuel goes to Singapore, but then is stored, believe it or not, we have an agreement with America. Why we can't store fuel here and be self-sufficient is beyond me. That's another question you guys might have an answer to. But they're saying that the reason that some bowsers are running dry is because people are panicking, a bit like toilet paper during COVID. Do you believe the government? The government says we have 32 days of fuel here in Australia and the deliveries are still coming. But people are saying bowsers are drying up. Where's the truth in all of this?
Who knows? Like they can spin whatever they want to spin to us. Who knows? Like at the end of the day, if people start panic buying and stocking up, who knows what the truth is? Like this is the problem where with issues like how much fuel we've got and how much we've got in reserve. We don't really know. So the bigwigs, they know, and they can feed us whatever they want. And at the end of the day, we've got no fucking idea.
Bill Edgar, should petrol stations, until this calms down, put a limit on how much petrol someone can buy? Say, okay, only $50 or say $60 or 50, I don't care, find a figure. Should there be a limit until this calms down on how much petrol one person can buy in one stop?
Yeah, hard question to answer, but yeah, I mean, rationing anything comes with a price to pay later on too, doesn't it? You know, my issue is that you're not hearing from BP or anyone like that. You're hearing from independents mainly, and I think to myself, okay, well, the independents, are they drying up because they don't want to pay the price at the moment? Are they waiting for something to happen? Is it again all about the money? You know, personally, rationing food, rationing fuel, rationing things like that sort of sounds to me like we're going to war.
This is it, isn't it? I mean, what's bubbling around in the background, and what the government's got planned, and they know what moves they're going to make, and the next 5 steps. They don't feed that to us. So you've exactly nailed it, Billy. We might be going, and they said, we've got to pull up stumps. We've got to be careful of what we're doing because we're about to, we're about to get into a fight.
Well, we are sending, quite a lot over there at the moment, and just in the few days they've announced that we're sending stuff. But again, I don't believe troops on the ground are even relevant these days with all the drones and all the stuff that's going on. People are saying, there should be subscription. What for? We can't, even if you send troops on the ground, they're annihilated straight away through the drone. So, but you're right. Anything in the background, we're not going to know about. And it's just a race you've got to run on your own. I don't believe in storing heaps of fuel yourself, but I do believe in topping the car up when it's even half a tank, and doing certain things for yourself. Look after yourself first, then you'll be able to look after your family. Anything else, collateral damage. It is what it is.
You're right. Ground troops these days, it's like screen door on a bloody submarine. Like it hand-to-hand combat will never ever exist again because of the technology and the drones and the weaponry that mankind use on each other these days. So it's irrelevant. We're going to send troops. It's horseshit.
It is funny because historically, no major war has been won by air power alone. The biggest recent example, Afghanistan, Timor. But look at Vietnam. I mean, the VCs didn't have an air force, and America got beaten. But Australia has sent an E-7A Wedgetail, and it's departed its base at Williamstown, which is just north of Newcastle, and it's bound for the Persian Gulf. We have a fleet of 6 of these things, and we have responded to a call for help, not from America, but according to the Prime Minister, from the UAE. Australia has now become directly or indirectly involved, not boots on the ground as they call it, but we're sending some form of support. We also supported Ukraine in its ongoing battle with Russia. How involved do you think Australia should be in all of this?
Oh, as much as New Zealand is. Fuck all.
Yeah, I don't know why we put our big boy pants on and got to get involved. Like, we're all the way down here. What happens between other countries means actually jack shit to us. We just like you said, Billy, we just be like New Zealand and just chill out. We don't need to be involved in this stuff.
Boots on the ground. Should Australia get involved? Please give us some feedback. What do you make of this? 0291 289311. We'd love to hear your voice if you want to drop us a voice message. I had to say, I had a funny thought the other day about a conversation Donald Trump had with French's Emmanuel Macron. And I imagine Trump saying to the French president, listen, we need your help with the war in Iran. And Macron saying, well, we don't want to get involved. We don't want to send troops. He said, I'm not asking you to send troops. I want your advice on how to advise them to surrender. Anyway, Bill, the book and the miniseries, where are we at?
Well, I've just been in Japan, believe it or not, and I've been speaking to quite a few people over there. I had an invite and went over and ended up making a holiday of it and took the whole family over and did a bit of skiing and things. But I've got to say, I'm one of these people. I love our country. I love traveling our country. I bought a caravan, and I've said to many people, and you've got to travel down under before you end up down under. And it's true, but other countries are nice to travel. In Japan, and I've got to also say, it was scary at the airport coming home.
Why?
Right? Because people are stuck at airports through Qatar Airways that aren't running and flying. And you're hearing all this nervousness, and then people are saying, well, let's fly to Australia, and then all the flights are booked to go to Australia, and it's heartbreaking to see what's going on. But at the same time, you start to panic yourself because you're thinking, geez, I hope, we're not even close to them, but we're still affected. Even Japan's affected. Everyone's affected in the airline industry. Everyone's affected. It was pretty full on. It was good to get home and touch Australian soil, put it that way.
This was another debate I saw on social media, that for those Australians that are stuck because airlines won't fly over that dangerous airspace, should the Australian government, that is also the Australian taxpayer, be funding RAF aircraft to fly them back home? And you would think, well, yeah, they're Australians, but they're over there possibly on a holiday. And should they have to pay that back like a HEX loan when they get back to Australia?
Yeah, I can't see a big issue with that, especially if they can get the insurance money back for the flight. If they can get the insurance money back for their return flight, forward that on to the, to the flight that they're going to get on. I mean, that's a no-brainer for me.
I wonder, Vice Captain, if the sudden outbreak of war is, if it's covered in your travel insurance.
It's not. I saw on the news the other day, that's like null and void on insurance claims, because on the insurance company side, it's not just one person affected by war. It's everyone that's overseas all at the same time would be able to make a claim. And so that's why they say you can't make a claim based on wartime.
Mm.
Wow.
There
I wonder what bill you'd be stuck with then, considering you've already paid for your airfare, but the plane's not there.
I would not like to work in the air industry.
No.
And in your current state, they're pretty pleased you're not working for them either.
Yes. Bill, I was just scrolling through your Facebook page, and I saw this meme that you put up, and I just wanted to share it with the boys. Now, this is obviously after the former Prince, I don't know, Andrew Mountbatten, and it says, famous paparazzi photo, oh, I'm so effed, get me the Coffin confessor, I ain't going alone. What are your thoughts on this?
That's very funny.
Yeah, it was a spur of the moment thing. I saw his face in the back of the camera, and I thought, you know what, that's exactly what I'd be thinking. I'd be thinking, like, who the can I get back? I got to get out of this hole I've dug myself.
I'm taking someone with me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think it's very funny. But where is Sarah Ferguson? And I bet you the royal family are absolutely shitting themselves with the dirt that she's going to spill, because she is so desperate for money, she will sell her dirt story to anyone, and people will buy it and read it, won't they?
Of course they will. People love that type of gossip and that type of shit going on, of course. And if they start dropping truth bombs about the family, and the biggest truth bomb I want to hear is about Diana. But anyway, that won't happen. Yeah. But it'd be good to know.
Do you reckon that's why the royal family kept quiet about Andrew, and everyone knew what he was up to for a long time? Do you reckon that's why they kept quiet, Vice Captain, because they were scared that he and Sarah were going to take a lot of royal shit down with them?
Well, I think there'd be a lot of people nervous about what Andrew knows. He was obviously Jeff's right-hand man, and he was neck deep in everything. And I think there'd be a lot of people very, very nervous about whether he goes quietly or he just says, you know what, I'm not going alone. And I hope he does. I hope he dobs everybody in. I really do. I just hope he just sits there for 3 days and just spills his guts.
How much do you reckon their daughters, the princesses, they still have that title, Beatrice and Eugene or Eugenie? I mean, when they went to visit Epstein with their mother, one was 19, one was 21. They were both adults, and they went to see a convicted pedophile. how much of their parents' behaviour and how much do you reckon these daughters know? Are they involved at all, or am I just going overboard on the royal pylon?
I don't know. They'd have to know something. You'd have to know what your dad's a bit of a dad's a bit of a creep and he hangs out with other creeps. So surely they'd know something. Maybe they wouldn't know what length or depth that he was in, but they'd know something.
So back to the book and the series.
Yeah, so I met I've been meeting with a writer who wrote for The Simpsons, who actually loves the concept, the idea, and and as far as the American-based side of it, with Ted Gold and Kobe Rowe, they've also engaged writers for the drama series, and it's exciting. But I'd like to publicly announce what's happening, but under contractuals and things like that, I can't. They'll do all that, and I'll be excited when they do. But I've spoken to and met with some beautiful people and actors and actresses and writers and directors, and it's been a buzz. It's been a real, it's great. Different world to us, though.
Is it still true that Bryan Cranston is going to play you?
Oh, I can't confirm or deny, but I can tell you that Brian's been in touch and they've spoken to him.
How exciting!
Bill, with the Coffin confessing, is it always bad, or is there points where someone's going to pass and they said, I want to profess my undying love to my brother's wife, or something like that? Is it always bad, or is there points where it's a loving gesture rather than the get square?
Yeah, absolutely. There's more. Obviously, there's more, confessions about infidelity and things like that and what they've done in their lives and that. But there are the moments where you get some beautiful messages and you leave some people in tears because, for instance, this lady, she's been married for 30 years and her best friend of 50 years, she was madly in love with and she wanted to be with. But in those days you couldn't, it was absolutely taboo to do that with, two women. And it wasn't until she died that she actually revealed this, true fantasy and love that she had for her friend, when a friend turned around and said, I had exactly the same feelings. And we just couldn't say it.
Too late.
And it was 30 years too late. It's just so sad, but such a beautiful thing. And the husbands, they were quite open with it and quite, they sort of knew, but they never, but yes, there is some beautiful things. I got to say, one of the beautiful, touching things that I've done lately is I deliver gifts from the afterlife. And this young bloke had passed away. And prior to him passing away, he always played chess on a Sunday with his dad, always, his elderly father. And he said to me, can you deliver this electronic chessboard to my father on the first Sunday after my passing, and let him know that I'm waiting to play? And, oh man.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Incredible. So this elderly man now sits every Sunday and he plays chess electronically with his son. It's just a beautiful thing. Yeah. But then you have the odd one where, I did have to deliver a sex toy with an engraving on it saying your husband wasn't very good in bed to a lady that,
Elaborate. What happened? Tell us the story.
Yeah. So a lady had come to me and she said, I need a sex toy engraved with the words, because we both know your husband's shit in bed, and I want you to deliver it to this lady after I've passed. I want you to make sure that the lady and her husband are home at the same time. So all that was done, and it was delivered to this lady. Went down like a lead balloon. But the twist of this story is the lady that actually gave me the toy to be engraved is actually a man dressed as a woman. So the wife actually found out that her husband was having an affair, but also with a transvestite.
Well,
for 3 years.
This is amazing.
Yeah. And this went on for 3 years. This actual bloke who was married with kids, it kept telling this lady that he was going to leave his wife and kids and be with her. For 3 years, he dragged them along. He deserved what he got in the end.
Bill, what else I want to touch on is your other side of being a PI, a private investigator. I've always been told that that women make better private investigators than men because they sort of blend into the background more. But I guess, I mean, my idea of a private investigator is a cloak and a hat, and you sneak around following people. But I'm guessing it's not like that.
No, no, not at all. I'm more the Tom Selleck type. I got to say though, women, you think of private investigators and you think of following the cheating husband or the cheating wife. And I've met women private investigators that actually coerce other women to go up to the man and put their arm around him just so they can take photos and evidence so they can go back to the wife and say, oh yeah, this happened. And that's a putrid part of the industry. And there's a lot of that goes on. So I don't get into any of that. I literally came up with a whole concept for PI for my own self because I didn't want to go into that world. And what I did is I found out there was a general managers meeting of hotels, and I went to this meeting and I gave my cards out to the general managers and I said, look, in 6 weeks, you employ me for 6 weeks as a security guard, a bed cleaner, a dish hand, whatever it is, and I'll find out who's stealing and what the gossip is in your hotel. One of them took it up, and it was a big firm. Just one of them took it out. Out of the 300 people, they won. And then that one took me on for 6 weeks and gave me a really good wage. And in 4 weeks, I found out where all the linen was going, all the food was going, what security was stealing what. I was engaged as a dish hand, so I was there, washing dishes for 6 weeks. And on the 6th week, after I got to know everybody, I threw a pot in the air and I went, oh, I hate this place. I quit, and I walked out. A week later, I had all my evidence and everything together, and I went and saw the general manager in private, and I said, look, this is all the evidence. This is what I've got. He's reviewed it, looked at it, come back to me, and he says, wow. He says, I'd like to employ you every 6 months to do our hotels. And that's what I've been doing.
Wow. I mean, that right there, Vice Captain, is a TV series. That's a TV series.
My whole life is a TV series.
Being a dish pig, you find everything out because in the kitchens, everybody talks. Like you're the lowest of the low. So there's no fear of reprisals. Like I'm going to tell the dish pig that I'm pinching linen because what's he going to do?
Exactly.
Like, it's not going to go any further. It's genius in its simplicity.
Yeah, and it was quite a easy concept and idea to come up with. And what happened is security used to come up to us like, I'd be working till say 11 a.m. washing dishes, and security would come up and they'd go, oh, do you know where the key is to the freezer so we can have a feed? And I'd go, oh, I know where it is, but we'll get in trouble. Oh, no, don't worry about it. Come in with us and have some prawns and salmon and all this stuff. So I was doing everything they were doing and enjoying all the benefits of all this side hustle. And then all of a sudden I saw the security guys and some of the cleaners, they used the pillowcases as bags. And they'd be dropping them down the chute, and then the security would get the pillowcases and put them somewhere, and then the cleaners would leave, and it was just rife. And this goes on in every hotel, every one.
Did you have to video it while you were doing it for evidence?
A lot of the times I do video, regardless if they're wanting me to or not, but I do. And I do this specifically for my own detriment, so I can't be convicted or anything like that. So the contract's pretty secure. And like anything I do, even when I speak to somebody that's on their deathbed, I video everything. So I've got evidence and proof. If somebody wants me to go to their home and remove sensitive items they don't want their family and friends to find, it's got to be contractual plus video. So that way, when the police rock up and they go, hey, you're breaking in, you're not allowed to do that, I'll play the video, my client who's on the deathbed in hospital, wherever they are, allowing me and giving me the keys to go and access their property. So everything's on video that I do. The only thing I don't do, and this is something that a lot of people say I should do, but I don't. And I do this mainly because my integrity and everything else, but I will not film myself crashing a funeral. Anybody else can film me. I don't give a fuck. I've had people reach out and say, oh, look, I'm going to sell this video if you don't pay me. I don't give a fuck. It's not, I don't care what you do. But I will not personally film myself crashing a funeral because my client is deceased. Anybody else there, I have no care or concern about. It's my client's in the coffin now. So, I will not film myself for the pleasure of getting likes, shares, or media attention. I won't do that.
How do you get into how did the PI work start? Like you wake up one morning and go, I might give this a lash. Like I know with my life, I sort of evolved from a bricklayer and a tradesman into the antiques and collectible game, which is, chalk and cheese. But how do you like, if I woke up tomorrow morning and said, I want to be a PI, what do I do?
Yeah, it's a pretty stringent course nowadays, and it was sort of back then too. But I touch on the law a lot. I do a lot of, I look at the law, I read it, I read all the complex things, and I sort of go through it because I do walk a very fine line, but I try not to cross it, but it is a fine line. For me personally, how I got into it is I have gone through every job you can think of, by standing on the doors of nightclubs to bricklaying to roofing, tiling, you name it. And then all of a sudden I fell into the legitimate side of debt collecting. And I was working for this company on the Gold Coast that was collecting debts. And I was in an office and I was collecting all these debts, and I was raking in hundreds of thousands of dollars a week for this company. And then this lady said, look, I don't owe the debt. And this bloke would say, I don't owe the debt. Can you look into it? And then when I'd say to the boss, look, I'd like to look into this, he'd say no. But I did look into it because these people were heart-sold. And then I found out the debt was insured and written off prior to it being sold by the bank to the debt collection company. And when I questioned that, I got sacked.
Wow.
I got terminated. So what I did is I started up a company called Freedom from Debt Collectors. And I had hundreds of people come to me and say, look, I've got this debt. And then I went to ASIC, the ATO, and they said, look, unless you have a background, you're not going to get anywhere. You've got to have something. And I said, well, like what? And they said, well, you've got to be a financial controller or somebody with ethics. And I went, oh, fuck, I'm telling you, I'm trying to blow the whistle. And they said, no, not going to happen. It's a bank. Okay. So what do? I went and I became a private investigator in the financial world. And that's what I did. I started to investigate banks, and the banks ended up turning around and taking me to ASIC for investigating them. And then ASIC said, we can't do anything. He's a licensed private investigator. What do you want to do? That's what I've been doing for years now. You know what, when a car's been written off, it can be repaired as a repairable write-off. Debts are exactly the same. You can have a $500,000 debt that has been written off, underwritten by the banks, and then sold again by the banks to a debt collection company for $40. And then that debt collection company can come after you for $500,000, the original part of the debt. The courts will allow that to happen because the court system believes the banks and the financial institutions over you. So, and you haven't got the money to fight it anyway. And they know that you're in debt at $2,000. You haven't got $4,000 to fight it. And what's the point? But I come in and I proved that the debt was sold prior to it being underwritten. That's illegal. And then all of a sudden the bank will get in touch with me, or the debt collector will get in touch with me, or the debt consolidator will get in touch with me, and they'll say, oh, we apologize. This debt was sold in error. We've now revoked that debt. But what I found is that debts are sold in pools. They're not sold individually. So 100 debts are sold in a pool. And that 100 debts could be sold to a debt collector for $500,000, but that pool could hold $20 million of debt. Now, that debt collector only has to get 3 or 4 people to start paying.
Yeah.
They make their money.
So it seems to me that part of it is very forensic, and you've got to have the right brain for that. I kind of thought, like Adam, that being a PI was sort of cloak and dagger and legwork. And people saying, I think my wife or I think my husband's having an affair. How much of PI work is stirred on by infidelity?
Most of it. So there's only 2 segments, in the PI world, and that's basically insurance claims and the world of infidelity. Yeah, they're the main 2 that most PIs fall into. I got to say that 95% of PIs are ex-police officers, detectives. 95% of them are. I'm probably the only criminal that's become a debt collector in the time in the history. I've been a PI in the history. I mean, it took me a long time to get to where I am. I had to prove that I was of good character. I've now been a private investigator for 14 years. And it's not, you have to obviously study and do your things every year, and you have to renew it too every couple of years, and that costs thousands.
Is there good money in it?
There is in what I do. I don't do the other shit. I create my own work, and there is good money in what I do. I found a lot of people try to copy what I've done, especially like the Coffin Confessor. Around the globe now, people are trying to copy it and do it, and they reach out to me and they go, I need help. I can't do it. Well, you can't do it because you're not me. That's
right.
pretty simple for me. You know, that's how it is. In the world that you come from, you know, bricklaying and working, and, you know, there's 100,000 bricklayers, you know, but out of that 100,000 bricklayers, there's only probably 5,000 that are really, really good at it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
When you're chasing someone's concerns about infidelity, how often are they correct?
Yeah, look, I have to go down this road because, especially being the Coffin Confessor, someone will say, look, you know, I slept with my neighbor and I need this all out when I die, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. So I have to investigate that, and I go into it, and I've found probably 3 occasions where the person was lying on their deathbed. They just want to doubt this person, so this person had a miserable life, you know, after they're gone. And so this is where my investigations are very important. I'm not going to go and crash a funeral and say, oh, you know, Jake slept with Mary and she's pregnant to his kids when she wasn't, and I could destroy a whole family. You know what I mean? So I'm very, very careful and cautious what I do. But when you get into that seedy side of the you know, infidelity world, it's quite amazing, because I always think to myself, I've been with my wife 42 years. We met when we were 15. 42 years I've been with my wife. And I say to people, the quickest way a man can f up his whole life, relationship and everything, is his own dick.
Yeah.
For 5 minutes of pleasure. That's the quickest way a man can up his whole life. But I got to say, probably in the last 5 years, women have really stepped up. The amount of women that have now confessed or been caught out having affairs is just unbelievable. And I got to say, it's not the young women either. It's the women that have going through menopause, post, pre, or during menopause. I find that amazing, because my wife's been through that and gone through it, and now, you know, on the other side of it. And I know how bad it is. And people say, oh, you know, the women go through everything. But if you're a loving, trusting, caring husband, you go through that shit as well. You know, it's hard. But I got to say, a lot of women that I've come in touch with, you know, and investigated, you know, they're all in their, you know, mid-40s to late 50s.
You said, what's the point in ruining your whole life for 5 minutes of pleasure? And I was just going to ask, how do you make it last 5 minutes? Anyway.
Ha, 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 ha.
What's the most shocking job, as far as being a PI is concerned? What's the most shocking result you've ever uncovered?
Oh, I can't name the retailer, but it's a national retailer. It was a accident, total accident on my part. I was investigated to look into a warehouse theft. I was sitting in a container, shipping container, and I was counting with a gun that does all the barcodes, and I was counting all the TVs, all this stuff that came in, computers, TVs, and I'd scan it all, and it was all correct. And I thought, okay, well, that shipping container's all right. And I have a pen, and I was writing down exactly what I was doing, and I had the pen in my mouth, and I was flicking it, and then all of a sudden the pen flicked out, and it flicked over 3 boxes, and I had to crawl over the 3 boxes to get my pen. And as I crawled up, the 2 boxes were sturdy. The 3rd box collapsed. It was empty. Every 3rd box was empty. So the managers at the stores, they were scanning the boxes, but not actually physically picking the boxes up to find out what was in them, because they'd be on a forklift and just delivered. So what was happening is I started to find out the iron, kettles, hair dryers, all that stuff, empty boxes, a lot of them. And this was in every department store, and the managers were getting the blame for theft, or the floor staff were getting blamed for theft. And this all occurred by an accident. I got to say, the people that were let go because of this incident, it was heartbreaking to talk to them, because they never stolen a thing in their life. They did nothing wrong.
Yeah, that's tough, man.
You know,
so
it was really tough.
Who was taking them?
It was actually it was actually on the ship. So when it was all coming over, they were accessing the containers. And not only that, some of the containers were being loaded in certain places, and they were loaded empty. Like, they'd have, say,
Wow.
150-inch TVs, and only 75 of them would come over. But they're all boxed together, they all look nice, they're all strapped and tied together. But the empty boxes were delivered, and then all of a sudden the manager would blame somebody at the store and say, hey, listen, you were the last person, you took this TV, and they'd be like, I didn't take anything.
It's funny you should say that, because I used to be friends with a bloke who worked at a large retail store. I won't mention it on the podcast, but I'll happily tell you when the mics are off. And he had a gambling problem that no one knew about. I didn't know about it. I mean, a serious gambling problem, most of it pokies. And he was the manager of the electrical outdoor section of this large retailer. And he got himself into just over $800,000 in debt. And he used to sell TVs, for example, for cash, but there was no box. And when the people doing the stock take from Sydney came up to the warehouse, exactly that. Yeah. They were scanning empty boxes in the warehouse. The TVs had been sold for cash. Of course he was going to get caught eventually, but he thought if he gambled enough, he could win it back and fix everything up. And, of course, it never happened. And to my knowledge, he is still on the run. And I'll tell you who the retailer is when the microphones are off. It's a true story.
Yeah, no doubt it is. No doubt it is. I mean, I know of a couple myself that have done exactly the same thing.
I don't understand how you think you're going to get away with it. Even if you win the money back, the TVs are still gone. Like, it's just it's a
gambling thing. It's the mindset of a gambler. You know, I detest gambling. I detest it more so, not because I've done it, fallen into it, and I have, you know, for a very short time. I hate losing $1. I hate it more so because I heard my mother was a prolific gambler, which she was, but I heard later on in life that she slept in the car park of the casinos, and then it just, you know, go back in and then sleep in the car. And then it's just a horrible, disgusting life, and the lies and the cheats and the betrayal. And I got to say to any gambler out there right now going through all that shit, the best thing you can do is go and confront it. Tell your wife, tell your husband, tell them what's going on, accept the consequences, get help, stop, because all you're doing is you're helping the pubs, the gambling associations, the taxes. You're doing everything wrong by yourself. You know, every cent you put in there, you're taking away from yourself.
Luckily, it's one advice I don't have, but what really concerns, I don't mind people having a bet on the result of a horse race or the result of a sporting match. What really concerns me is exotic betting, where you can bet on not just the spread, but what wicketkeeper will drop how many balls in an over, or how many no balls will be bowled in that over, or how many fouls will Kyrie Irving get in this particular basketball game. That, to me, exotic betting leads to corruption.
Well, that's right. And but that's part of TAB own the sports now.
It's so easy now. All you need is an app. And while the sport is actually going, you can be betting.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy.
I actually just met a lady, her husband hired me to investigate, and she had 4 apps for Keno. I didn't even know what the hell that was until it's like Gold Lotto, but it's in real time, you know. And she had 4 apps on her phone, or 2 on her phone, 2 on her iPhone. She had this, I think it was $8,000 a week she'd gone through. It's incredible. And then one week she made $24,000, and she's all happy, but she lost like 10 grand the next week. And then 5 grand came in, and then lost 8 grand. And then it was just absolute nightmare.
What I would like to do is, on a separate podcast, I'd like to do a little bit more on Australia's gambling problem. It's a massive problem because it leads to not just heartbreak, but also suicide.
It does. I had a dear friend. His father gambled away the family's fortune and took his own life. It's a real thing.
Oh yeah.
Why don't we do a separate podcast on gambling? I did it when we first started the Bonafide podcast with the Reverend Costello, who's not anti-gambling, but he's certainly anti-exotic betting. And maybe we can look into this a little bit closer, because I don't understand it. I'm not a gambler. But for example, if you guys came over to my man cave and we're having a game of pool and you wanted to make it interesting, let's play $10 a rack. It makes the game interesting, or $5, or, you know, whatever. But it's people who don't know where to stop. And I've often been told by experts, if you start gambling and you're lucky and you get a big win early, that can ruin you.
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't mind having a punt, like if you're having a punt on the football or, you know, a boxing match or whatever.
On the result.
On the result, or a horse race. Like you've studied the guide, you know, this horse runs well in the wet. You know, it's at Moonee Valley. But what I don't get is the pokies. Like you're just pressing a button. It is they're strictly
so
designed.
Antisocial. It is so antisocial. It is awful. You go into one of those pokey rooms. They're dark, they're smoky, and it's full of lonely, desperate people.
Yeah, you go into them now. They've got phone chargers where you can sit your phone on the charge, so you do not have to move.
Yeah, I don't even go into them.
People have got into fights because they think that machine's mine.
Yeah, probably.
People have been known to piss their pants other than leave the machine.
But it is worth doing a podcast on and getting into it. And yeah, for sure. It's something that...
Well, I've had the Reverend Tim Costello on before, and maybe I should get him back and the three of us can have a separate chat, or we can do a separate chat on Australia's gambling problem, because it's a very, very dark and murky...
It's nowhere else in the world. No one else in the world plays pokies like we do.
No, we have more poker machines per capita than anywhere in the world, more than Las Vegas. Yeah, I know. It is unbelievable. And the governments are very hesitant to do anything about it because they create such an enormous amount of revenue. It's a bit like, why don't you ban smoking if it's so bad for you? No, we'll put the excess side.
It's also a thing that people hide. It's very well hidden. A lot of people will gamble at these places and at places that no one knows them, or they'll drive, miles to go and gamble so they're not in the area of, and it's a very secretive, silent killer, really. It really is. I mean, I remember talking to like Alfie Langer, the footy player. He was bad at the horse races years ago. It just happens, and it's sad that it happens. And then when they're exposed, it's like a shock, a wake-up call, a kick in the face. But sometimes that's what's needed.
Well, it's a topic for another day. Listen, guys, thank you so much for being part of the Man Cave today. Once again, we went a bit sideways. Can't wait to see I can't say Netflix because we don't know what platform, but I can't wait to see how you...
I don't even know what it is.
It's so cool, man.
It is really, really cool. You're one of the coolest cats I've ever met. And thank you so much, Billy Edgar.
No, thank you for having me. Great to chat. And let's chat again soon.
Vice Captain Evans Hastings, what do you got coming up?
Oh, there's always something happening at Evans Hastings. We're going to have a look at another huge collection of vintage cars. Benny, our fearless leader, is going out there today, out to Gunning or somewhere like that, kind of local, but I think there might be 10 really high-end vintage cars. So the car market's working really well for us, so we're gonna start chasing it hard.
Well, if you get an XA, XB, XC coupe, let me know.
I'll come across one. I'll give you a whistle, no worries. We'll find you one.
That. I've got 3 of them, but I'd like another one.
An XA, an XB, or an XC 2-door Falcon with the nostrils would be the only Ford I'd allow in my driveway.
Oh, that's good. I'm invited then.
I wouldn't allow one.
Hey, listen, do you want to know a true story, Bill Edgar?
Yeah,
do you know how to double the price of any Ford instantly?
Oh, no, go on. Tell me.
Fill it up with petrol.
Okay. Yeah, well, you know what? I bought my XB Falcon for $6,000 years ago, and I recently sold 2-door coupe, right, at GS, and I recently sold it at auction for $148,000.
There you go. Muscle cars.
Yeah.
It's where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, myself and the Millennial and the Minister for War and Finance, we recently went to Bathurst to the Motor Racing Museum, and there's a picture of me. You'll see it there on Facebook. We actually hunted down, we saw the Alan Moffat 1977.
Yeah.
That was an XCGS
Number 1 and 2. Yeah.
1 and 2. It was the Moffat Ford dealers team. There's a picture of me in front of Alan Moffat's car that came number 1.
Beautiful car.
Colin Bond.
Colin Bond, that's
car.
right.
Yeah. Okay, and the Mad Max car, of course.
And you know who was a big supporter of mine, and it's sad that he's passed this week. It was Agro, Jamie.
Jamie Dunn.
Jamie was a great supporter of mine, and we spoke a bit, and we even spoke about Coffin confessing at one stage. And he had a lot to confess, but he said, I'm going to take it with me. He said, only me and Agro know.
Yeah, way too young, 75 years of age. Jamie Dunn, the voice and the heart behind Aggro, Australia's most famous puppet. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Millennial. We'll be back for another chat very, very soon. In the meantime, you have a great day, great time. Please, folks, share, like, give us some feedback, and we'll get back to you.